This is Hot Goose Summer, the hottest and the goosiest pastimes for you.
Hello, party people. Welcome back to episode 2 of Hot Goose Summer.
The Hot Goose Summering.
I'm going to start off by apologizing for whatever our previous episode sounded like. We have some significant audio quality updates. Our fabulous editor, Sakima, has given us insights such as don't laugh directly into the microphone and be less echoey. And we're trying our best. We're trying our best to stick with those things. But hey, we'll all find out together how we sound.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
I simply fully believe we're going to sound exactly the same, only because of us. Sakima has given us brilliant advice, and we are simply inept.
we're the fuck-up children of this podcast, and Sakima is our aunt who knows what's good for us but can't enforce it.
Yeah, that's so true.
Otherwise, we have a release date update. Expect new episodes on Fridays, starting next week.
Woo!
I think that's all of our business to go through. Claire, how you been?
I've been good. I recently acquired a new job as a technical writer for a construction company. So now I am writing technically, which basically just means that every single day I sit at my computer and I wish that I had sort of psychic powers to be able to destroy the source code of Microsoft Word once and for all.
I love that for you. On my end, I've been hanging about the house and desperately trying to find a good coffee shop. And let me tell you, if it's good, it's far away. I'm in East St. Paul, and there is not too much going on here. Good local food, but you gotta sit down for that, and I am mostly alone. That's all right. I was trying a new coffee shop. I was trying the St. Paul Spy House location, which I give 4 out of 5 stars. They do have a frosted glass pane, like a massive one, like a 2x2 foot one, right at eye level, for the bathroom. So it just feels uncomfortable to pee in that bathroom. Not that someone can see the shape of all your bits, but they can see the shape of you, and that's bad enough.
Yeah. Ed Sheeran's song was a dire warning against the East St. Paul Spy House bathroom.
Christ. I've been reading Piranesi, which Claire gave me a copy of, not to keep, merely to hold and read.
He may not keep it. It's got my name in it.
And the magic in Piranesi is, I was thinking about this at the coffee shop today when my laptop ran out of battery. Unwilling to leave, and yet unable to browse the internet, I began to think of different types of magic in literature. I'm describing magic here as something immaterial, something transcendental, which is made physical. Not like the magic of friendship, but the magic of really having something in the world different because you've done it. And here's my off the cuff typology of what magic is.
Yes.
There's magic as esotericism, which I think is prominent in Piranesi, where there is a hidden system belonging to the world, which is not obvious and like complex to interact with, but is in some ways like a scientific thing. In other fiction, I really like this browser game called Fallen London, or another game by Alexis Kennedy called Cultist Simulator, which involves a lot of like, I would describe, like, there's a secret array of colors, and the colors are the color of things like forgetting. So this attempt to like scientifically engage with immaterial things, I think like Carl Jung, Wilhelm Reich, aka people I hate.
The Jungians are gonna come for you. They're going to
this book fucking
fry
reference
you.
Rudolf Steiner. Like these fucking anthosophy people. They're my enemies. They're my enemies.
Oh, they're vile.
But then in Murakami, who I've asked Claire to read this week, Murakami does a lot with like magic or unreality in some of his stories, but I think it's like magic as psychosis, like magic as personal dysfunction or insanity, which is really in line with Freud. It's a lot more material. And then there's fantasy. I'm thinking of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, or like a lot of folk stories. Not folk stories as interpreted by like Jung or like who's the Golden Bough asshole?
Is that Joseph Campbell? Are we talking about Joseph
Yeah,
Campbell? Yeah.
fucking Joseph Campbell.
Fucking Joseph Campbell.
Like actual folk stories where the fantasy is just part of the real and is not systematized in any way. It's just fantasy as an alternate nature of reality.
Right.
I think Harry Potter is much more fantasy than esotericism. It's like, oh, the world of Harry Potter is just different. So I've been really tuned into, especially the idea of esotericism, why I'm the enemy of it, and why every time someone is like, I believe in magic, and I'm like, tell me about that. They're intimidated and they don't want to. Why am I the enemy of this? Well, that's a topic for another day. Shall we roll into our main content here?
Please.
I have another bit of a reading series for you, Claire.
Yes. Oh my god, please. It's gonna be so bad.
This is a document I've told you about, but I've refused to link to you. Called, Do You Have a Friend Who Is a Loser? Get rid of him. Claire, I want to ask you, do you have a friend who's a loser? Just let me know confidentially right now.
Don't tell anyone, but yes.
All right. Get rid of him.
Okay, how should I go about that? Tell me about it.
Our friend, digital maestro AJ Kumar here at persuasive.net is going to let us know.
Persuasive.net?
Persuasive.net. This was actually last updated in June 2013.
Holy shit. I deserve to own the domain persuasive.net.
Persuasive.net. All right. Let's see what AJ has to say. He says, "It is easy for me to say that a lot of people surround themselves with losers. If you want to become successful, rich, or happy, you should do whatever it takes to grow, right? Right, Claire?"
Right.
As human beings, we must grow because, like a business, if we don't grow, we die. I don't mean literally die, but I mean mentally and socially. This is such a promising article. AJ is giving us treasures here. And the reason I was like browsing through this blog that I stumbled across. I was thinking there's some okay content, but there aren't any gems. But then suddenly, like a bolt of lightning, I scrolled down and I saw that he was arguing in the comments with some of the commenters about whether Obama was like a good persuader or not.
Oh my god.
And he said Obama is a fantastic speaker. He should say less, but you can tell he's studied hypnotism and NLP. And when he said NLP, I lost my mind because I think I described this to you earlier. It's like if you are a sad middle or high school guy in 2009 and you have been watching like YouTube videos of magicians.
Right.
And you want to be a magician, but you don't have the dexterity and patience to do it. Your next avenue to scamming people is NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. It's the pickup artist who goes to too many like seminars version of being a scammer.
Yes.
It's a suit and tie scammer culture.
Yes. NLP.
If you understand the human mind, you can do anything to people. And that's the culture we're entering today. Great. As we take a stand against losers.
We hate losers. Also, I want to make it clear for our audience, because I have absolutely pulled up persuasive.net. Luke is not simply complimenting our beautiful friend AJ here. On the website, my man is described as digital maestro AJ Kumar. I thought that was a funny bit Luke was doing. No, that's just his God-given title.
No, I fucking try to give respect to the people we quote here. Churchleaders.org, I respect you so much. And AJ, I'm also giving you that respect.
Yeah.
AJ is going to lead us with a question here. How can you classify one as being a loser? And there are
That's a
7
great
items
question.
here.
Oh, there are 7 items. Okay.
First one, no job, parentheses, not looking hard enough.
Wow.
Second, no money, parentheses, lack of motivation to make it. Third, lazy. Fourth, party all the time, unless it's related to your job. 5, too much drugs. 6, too much focus on girls. Now here's a crucial parenthesis, for guys, mainly 18 to 25. You're 26, I consider you safe. Final one, willingness to not step out of your comfort zone.
Oh my god. Everything about
Claire,
that is so funny.
would you describe yourself as someone who is willing to not step out of your comfort zone? Or are you someone who is compelled to step out of your comfort zone at all times?
Yeah, the way that's put is giving me a fucking stroke right now. So he wants us to step out of our comfort zone, or he wants us to stay in our comfort zone because that's where we're good.
I think he wants us out.
Okay.
AJ does tell us, I agree that the term loser sounds bad, but it is the best way for me to get your attention. Fair enough, AJ.
Fair enough, AJ.
If you are surrounding yourself with people who fit the criteria listed above, you will be brought down to their level. I believe I read this in a book. Please do correct me if I'm wrong. But if you take the income of 10 of your closest friends, or people you hang around the most, take the average. Your income will equal close to that amount. If you hang around people who make no money, then chances are you are making little to no money.
If your friends are poor, they're also making you poor.
I feel like the causality here is not correct. I think that if you hang around with rich people, then you will be the loser.
Yeah.
It's a case of how do they say it? Correlation is not causation.
Yes.
Anyway, AJ is going to seal the deal though by saying lay down with dogs and you will come up with fleas. Can't argue with that.
Can't argue. Does he say can't argue with that?
No,
Oh,
I'm
okay,
saying
okay,
I can't
okay.
argue with that.
I thought
you
he
could
was
argue with
I
that.
thought he was rhetorically saying like can't argue with that, and I was going to be like AJ?
Claire, you should surround yourself with successful people. My good friend Neil Patel has told me that this year he wants to befriend 5 billionaires. Wow, what a goal! I personally know of maybe 1 or 2 millionaires, and that's probably on no more than a first-name basis. It's hard for me to even fathom befriending 1 billionaire. The idea is so simple though, so pay close attention. Imagine being able to spend 1 hour with a successful business tycoon like, I'm going to cut in here, remember this is 13. A lot of things that have happened now haven't happened yet.
True.
Donald Trump.
Holy fuck.
Do you think that you'll learn something that will help you make money? Of course.
Holy fuck. This is such a relic.
American people learned so much about business during the Trump presidency just by constant exposure to him. I don't know. I think we're proving AJ's thesis right. I hate to say it, but I fully agree.
We learned so much about business in sort of a evil way. We learned
Set up a
just
goal.
like horrible business. That's bad actually.
Set up a goal to meet someone who makes 10 times the income you do. If your goal is not about money, then find someone who does what you want to do at a measurable 10 times higher level. If you want to be a great podcaster, find someone who podcasts 10 times better than you. I don't know how you would measure that.
We have to go to NPR. We have to.
Get the radio voice.
Get the radio voice. We have to take a road trip and storm the offices of NPR.
Yeah, fuck. AJ is going to recommend finding these people by networking and going to seminars. I'm going to skip that segment real quick. But, I don't know, do you feel like AJ is a little too concerned with money at this point?
Yes. AJ.
I I think that this may be obvious to you, dear listener, but a lot of the like success win mindset things are about just wanting success, but not having like the creativity or nuanced thought to understand that success might be something complicated or like
Right.
that affects your life in a variety of ways. AJ is ahead of us with another segment titled "Nothing is Wrong with Not Wanting to Be Rich." He says, "Let me clarify, not being a loser doesn't mean you have to be someone who is interested in making tons of money. What I mean is that you should surround yourself with people who are interested in growing mentally, physically, financially, or even spiritually. The more people you have around you that put genuine interest in growing, the easier it will be to transform your mind to win." It's like you can't escape the money and like the winning.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. It's like we're gonna just get bullied for this, but I saw this billboard that was like, join the Marines. They
Yeah.
always win. And it's like, against who? The like children they're practicing to potentially murder? You know what I mean? Like, you know, not that whatever. We can't do army discourse here because we're both leftists and that'll just get us killed.
Yeah. I mean,
But
I would describe myself as a success win Christian fundamentalist, but if that's what being a leftist is, I'm all right with
you're
that.
all right with that. But
It's just like when
everyone
you
wants to
start from
win
the
all the
premise.
time.
Yeah, when you start from the premise that like being the Marines is like the highest form of life, or that like business success sociopathy is the highest form of life, no matter how many times you say, "Oh no, it's about human rights. Oh no, it's about personal growth." It's not happening for you.
Yeah.
You've fixed your eyes on the golden calf, and the fucking idea of anything else doesn't make sense to you anymore.
Fuck. Luke came down from his mountain and dropped his fucking tablets. Luke was like, shit.
Persuasive.net is the golden tablets for us though.
Oh my god.
Claire, losers mess up your entire mindset and hold you back from success. Many of you have these losers in your life. I'm speaking directly. AJ and I are speaking directly to you, Claire,
Of course.
because we're trying to intervene in some bad things we've seen happening to you.
Yeah.
You have these losers in your life that you still care for, and maybe even people you've been friends with for 10 plus years.
Oh.
However, the bottom line is, if they are unwilling to change their poor habits, are you willing to sacrifice your own success? He's right here, Claire. You've got to admit he's right.
I really am obsessed with him listing the qualities of a loser, and it's just like hates money, doesn't want money, does not want to be the boss of the Sicky's garage where they work. Sorry, Sicky's garage is a place in Fargo that exists, I think, literally just like in Fargo and maybe Bismarck and Grand Forks.
Gotta say, it sounds unpleasant.
It's actually pretty good, but in a sort of greasy way, you know. I got distracted by Sickies. Please, this man, this whole time has been like, losers, they don't like money, and then in the middle of this article, he's like, now I just want to clarify. Just because you don't like money doesn't mean you're a loser. And I'm like, I think it does, according to the fucking loser matrix that you just gave me to rank my friends by.
Now I did scroll down, and there was a commenter who's like, "Excuse me, sir, despite your brilliance, I think you've neglected people who don't value money, like Mother Teresa." And he goes, "Okay, now Mother Teresa is really good. That's a good point. Good comment." And the use of the most fucking basic and unpleasant example of the most evil way to do charity,
Yeah.
which is like to just have a house full of sick people and put cloths on their forehead, but just deny them all actual medical care. I'm sorry, we can't do this. We've got to move on to how to get rid of losers.
You're right. I'm so sorry.
AJ lets us know, at this point, I assume that you have tried to help these losers out. Claire, in the last 15 seconds, have you tried to help these losers out, but they still wouldn't budge?
Yeah, these motherfucking losers.
I've also rapidly sent a few text messages to the losers in my life. They
Yeah.
did not even
I
respond.
sent them some psychic vibes because that's how losers actually receive text message.
Alright, let's fucking get rid of them. Take out a sheet of paper. You got it?
I'm gonna...
Alright, write on one side uplifters, and on the other side losers.
Oh, okay.
Take everyone from the loser's side and clear their contact info from their phone, from your phone, email, computer, phone book, etc.
Okay.
If they call you to hang out or whatever, no need to be rude. Just say you are busy working or something. Again, don't be rude. Let them know that you are busy working on growing your life.
Oh, is that it?
No, there's actually a bit I was going to hold back from you because I thought you weren't ready. But here's the final point.
Okay.
If you are interested in doing it in an extreme way, like how I did it when I was 17, change your phone number and only give your new number to the uplifters. So now my question is, are you going to do it? Are you going to get rid of the losers in your life? Then below we have the option to share the knowledge via Twitter, Facebook, email, or damn, there are more options. There are like 75 different ways you can share this, including by AOL mail and things I've never heard of, like Mixi and Fintel and VK.
What the fuck are those?
This is soup.io. Holy shit.
Soup.io?
AJ, come on our show.
Oh
AJ,
my God.
I love you.
AJ.
AJ,
AJ, you have to explain to me what the
come
fuck
back.
Yumly is.
Yumly?
Oh, you could share this via Kick?
I'm gonna share this to all the people I randomly connect with on Kick so I can sext them persuasive.net.
You can share this on Google Classroom.
Oh god, there was a certain kind of person in 2009 who comments on persuasive.net. Here's Michelle Babcock Nice. I have enjoyed reading your articles and have obtained quality information from them. Your current article about losers is informative. However, you have presented some ideas with which I disagree. These people read a book called like my brain has been rotted. What do you call it when you short contractions?
Yeah.
They read a book like The Contraction Dilemma, which says that like you can correlate the use of contractions with the smallening of American IQs.
Yeah.
And they were like, I'm done with contractions. Like
yes.
Success mindset is like bad now, but like back in the day, success mindset was like cool. Like if you were 13 and hated yourself, this was where you needed to be.
Yeah. So the first thing that comes up when you pull up persuasive.net is 5 ways to train your brain for maximum productivity. And I do truly feel like there was like a really big thing sort of in that era about like, if you're playing DS games, why don't you play the DS games that like make you think?
No fucking lie, he recommends Brain Age in another one of his posts he recommended. That slaps. This was like the high point for TED Talks. Was like mid-Obama era.
Holy shit.
Like, if you have 7 minutes of just condensed, kind of decontextualized knowledge, you are the same thing as a god.
Yes.
Like, you are the god of your own intellectual domain, and no one can take that away from you. However, you also must hustle.
Yes.
Like, the hustling is the proof that you're fine. If you're ever, like, actually happy, then you're doing it wrong. You always have to be approaching happiness via rigorous self-discipline and the magic of just getting rid of all of your friends. Every source of comfort and happiness in your life, turns out it's bad for you.
Yes, it's like, if you eat chocolate, you're going to die young and stupid.
It was a later era, but there I mean, this has always happened. But I remember there was a year when I would just see at Barnes & Noble every time books like Grain Destroys Your Brain. Like, um, there is only one kind of good meat, and we will not tell you what it is. Like, there was so much... Everyone has internalized, like, the self-management, like, the quantified self, the, like, put yourself in an app and track how many steps you're taking. We've all internalized it now. We don't... Those books don't get on the front display of Barnes & Noble that I've seen recently.
No.
But, like, we had to learn that the hard way through things like, if your parents fed you Jell-O as a child, here's how you can, like, intellectually recover through that, or persuasive.net. Those were, like, the avenues that we became the superhumans, the clinically depressed superhumans that, like, 90% of all Americans are today. Just lonely, sad, but able to memorize vast quantities of information. Or if you can't, then you obviously weren't reading persuasive.net.
Yeah. And this is also connected too to, like, that was around the time that fast food places started putting, like, calories up on their menu and stuff. It's like, do you want to quantify every experience you have? Then come to McDonald's and see just how much energy you get from our chicken nuggets.
Yeah, the fucking reality is, like, we don't know more than we used to, but we have access to vastly more information than we used to. And so, just the feeling of, like, being endlessly piled under a dump truck of, like, numbers and facts.
Yes.
Like, back before we had that, we were all so stupid. We weren't happier. We're not sadder because of it, but we are all more stressed.
Yes. I think every day I think about how Twitter, in particular, is a mistake because no one was made to just receive the opinions of 19,000 people all at once, all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's so fucked up. Christ. AJ really...
I would say probably the only good media left is podcasting, but not all podcasts. Just this one.
Just this one. If you listen to any other podcasts...
All right, let's roll into some reviews. I gave you something to review. I asked you to review the Haruki Murakami short story, Drive My Car, that's now some kind of award-nominated movie that we watched recently. And you asked me to review an episode of Survivor, and you gave me free reign in choosing what that was. You want to go first, or should I?
I'll go first. We'll retain our structure. Plus, I'm just very excited to hear what you say about Survivor, so I wanna save it. Because Survivor's such an insane piece of media.
Yeah, it fucking is.
Whew. Yeah, I read Drive My Car, not 20 minutes before I jumped on this call, mostly because I've had a spectacularly busy week.
Hell yeah.
And it struck me that it was very lovely, just like sort of the movie is also very lovely, but it also struck me that, like, whenever you're reading a man, you can just feel it. You can just sense the manness of it. There's, like, I wrote down this line. I have to open my fucking notes app because it made me laugh so hard that I wrote this down. He's, like, describing what his driver looks like. Because Drive My Car, for those who haven't read or watched it...
Oh, no, I know what line you're... Oh, fucking hell. Okay, go ahead.
Drive My Car...
Wait, do you want to describe the setup to this? Like, the circumstances of...
Yeah.
I think our viewers may not be familiar.
That's kind of what I was
listeners,
gonna... Yeah.
Our beloved sexy listeners.
Our sexy, beloved, fucking... I don't have anything other than sexy and beloved, never mind. That was a failed bit. Sakima better fucking remove this. No, drive my
Don't
car.
remove it, Sakima. Leave it in.
I know where you live now. Drive My Car is a short story about like an extremely sad sort of 50-year-old man whose wife recently-ish has passed away. Um and through the story like you learn a lot about this man, but he's an actor who has a blind spot in the bottom of one of his eyes, so he has to hire a driver to drive him around because he's not legally allowed to drive. And through the story, you sort of learn that his wife was cheating on him, which he knew, and he's very melancholy about, but also sort of interestingly sort of introspective about. And like this man sort of has gone through like befriending one of his wife's lovers, and he and this young woman have this young woman who ends up being his driver have like a really nice friendship. And she helps him process some of his trauma. Woo! And that's the story. Like that's this whole thing. That's the story. So
yeah, in this story as well as the movie, there is a moment where he like sort of breaks down in front of the driver and sort of says like he's already gone over a few of his feelings, but he sort of opens it up completely. And then she like gives him this moment of like it's not like transcendent advice. It's just like the advice he needed to hear. And he's just like simultaneously devastated and sort of nonplussed by it. It's a moment that changes everything and changes nothing.
Yeah.
It's a very good Murakami style of reveal, which is nothing has actually changed, but something deep inside me has changed.
Yes, very, very much so. He's like,
okay, so
yeah.
The first time he meets the driver, he has a description of her.
He has a description of her, and it's like genuinely a pretty interesting description because he talks about how she like still has some acne scars from high school. She's got sort of large eyes, big ears, hair that's not very well kempt. You know, he talks about like her specific type of jacket, but then then he says that he looks at her like white long sleeve t-shirt that she's wearing under her jacket and takes note of quote her larger than average breasts.
The subtext of this story is that like he and she are sort of spiritually father and daughter.
Yes.
She's like the same age as his daughter who died shortly after being born. And then he is sort of the age of her father who just left when she was like 7.
Yeah. Yeah. So that moment really...
I was reading a lot of Murakami and Vonnegut at the same time, and so they always ring in the same way to me.
Yeah.
And they're both, I feel that both of these guys are sort of normal guys with weird hang-ups.
Yeah.
But Vonnegut's hang-ups are that he like loves grime and despair, and he like is fascinated by the humanity of people who are like weirdos and losers. And like in absurd situations. Whereas Murakami's hang-ups are genuinely just like personal sexual and emotional hang-ups, like women's ears or women who are 30 years younger than, and it's almost always women. He does
Classic.
like sort of like sad but professionally successful men. He does like cultural outsiders, he likes cats, but he really, there's so much like I myself will be emotionally fulfilled by like oblique conversations with just extremely specific kinds of women. And it's just one of the worst kinds of hang-ups to put into your writing. Is like, I don't know, what I thought at first you were going to go for was just the first like 7 paragraphs of this, which read like a bad stand-up bit.
Yeah.
It's, he's like, most women are bad drivers.
Yeah.
Some men are bad drivers, but they don't drive with the same sense of tension. Anyway, I'm not sexist. In fact, I like women more for many things, except driving is not one of them. And it just goes on and
It
on. And I
does.
don't know if
That bit goes for an extremely long time.
I don't know if this is fresher in Japanese culture, but from my knowledge of Korean culture, everyone has these tropes and they're not good anywhere. So I don't think it's a cultural differences problem. I think it's just bad writing. Womp womp.
Womp womp. Which is unfortunate because the rest of it is genuinely pretty good. Like it's there's some really lovely moments.
Yeah. I'm sorry to cut so much away from you.
No, you're good.
What other
I mostly
give me some more.
I mostly
Yeah.
wanted to highlight his use of the word breasts because I think I've never read a male writer that doesn't call them breasts in this like very particular way, you know? Like no man has ever written the word like boobs. No man no man has ever truly even written the word tits, which seems like more likely, and yet somehow male writers always know that when they're describing someone's tits, they should not be, because they always use breasts. They're like, what's the most professional word for saying she's got big honkin' bazonkas? And it's breasts. And then they use it, and it sounds bad every single time. Every time.
Fellow man, when you're writing a New Yorker short story, Claire and I are now putting out the call for you to use big honkers, use tits, use boobs.
Use pillowy fucking incredible tittios, baby. Anything
We're putting out the call
breasts.
that now that you've gotten rid of your fucking loser friends, you can write that award-winning short story.
Yeah.
And in that short story, you're going to use a new word. A word heretofore untouched by the sort of soft literary fingers of you and your fellow stand-up poetry guys.
Holy shit. When you write the next great American novel.
I think our shitty guys, I think like Philip Roth, Jonathan Franzen, David Foster Wallace.
Yeah.
I think they've used many different words, but I can't place them, and so I can't argue with you.
It's not that people haven't, it's just that the one I see most is breast. You know? It's like, and for whatever reason, that's just the worst one. I like would rather the word tits. It's just so much less upsetting. It's so much less sort of clinical. Anyway, that's my hang up about the way that women are described. I did really like there were a couple moments in the story where he did some great metaphors. He at one point describes the sound of windshield wipers as a pair of squabbling twins.
Yeah.
Which I really liked. I thought that was really lovely. And then he also describes there's this like lightly homoerotic moment between the old guy and one of the younger men that his wife has slept with. Where the younger guy is like talking to him, and the main character's like, if I were a middle-aged woman, my cheeks would be red. You know, and it's just like, okay, if you were.
Yeah.
Oh, Christ. I also love the lengths, sort of rhetorically, that men go to be like, now, I don't find this man attractive. However, if I were perhaps a woman, I would.
It's I always go to the trashiest references of all time, but the podcast episode 1, remember they do a poetry reading where they're like, oh homie, my homie, I wish you were a woman. I wish I was a woman so I could suck the unhappiness out of you. Oh shit. There's
Holy
so much
fuck.
good. There's so much. If you ever say the words, if I were a woman, you're producing gold standard content, whether you mean to or not, and I
Yeah.
love you for it.
Yeah. If you identify as a man and you are speaking especially about another man, and you're like, man, if I was a woman, I'd eat the shit out of his ass. You know, like fucking.
I've never heard that one before,
I haven't
but
either, but that's the vibe, you know. Anyway, I give Drive My Car, the Murakami short story Drive My Car, 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was going
hey,
to
not
be
bad.
4, but he got 0.5 deducted for having weird gender hangups.
Yeah, that's a solid assessment. I'm actually making that commitment. I'm gonna reread some Murakami.
Yeah.
Back in the day, back like 5 years ago, I'd actually read everything Murakami had written in English. And then I realized, like, why am I doing this to myself and the world? And I quit that shit. I got tired of his. Eventually, the hangups became too much to bear. But I'm kind of feeling it again.
Yeah.
I think the movie was a lot better than the short story. I thought the short story was fairly good. Movie, I'd give the movie 4 out of 5.
I would too. I think the movie
Actually,
was really lovely.
I misspoke. I meant to say 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah.
I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. It was high quality.
It was really high quality. It was, I've wept at a lot of movies recently. But man, Drive My Car really, really got to me in a way that some of these other ones haven't.
There's a scene where a woman does Korean Sign Language,
Oh my
which is
fucking
just
God.
unbelievable. I think it was the best. At the end of the movie, I had a lot of emotional release, but at about 1/3 of the movie, there's this incredible bit with Korean Sign Language, which is just unreal.
Yeah.
Christ. All right.
We can't talk about this movie anymore because we'll just lose it. It's a very good film.
It improves a lot of the fucking Murakami hangups.
It does.
Which is part of the reason it succeeds a lot more. All right, Claire asked me to...
The disappointment in his voice.
Before I fucking go into Survivor, let me talk about the end of the world. We don't do it as much as we did a few years ago. Like, I think the early Trump years were a high point for the world is ending. And I've become more and more attuned to the feeling that, like, when we're talking about, especially, like, climate change, but also, like, the collapse of sort of, like, capitalist things, like capitalist institutions, like our real estate bubble, stock market speculation, weird currency manipulation, but also, like, things like environmental and social collapse, just, like, increasing racism, global warming. We say, we're going to destroy the world. But the problem is, it's not in our capacity. We would if we could. We sure fucking would if we could. But we're never actually going to destroy the world. We just make it worse. It just gets worse. And the people who suffer are not, like, first worlders. We all suffer somewhat. But the vast majority of the suffering is borne by people most of us wouldn't even recognize. Like... people in Southeast Asia, people in, like, sub-Saharan Africa. I mean, the global poor get it, but, like, the third world, just, like, disenfranchised majority of the world population are the ones who really get fucked, and they can't emigrate.
Right.
Like, it's the difference between food getting more expensive, which is a real hardship, which we've all fucking noticed, and, like, the actual, like, annihilation of, like, the conditions under which you live, or things like Hurricane Katrina would be a rare example of it actually happening in the United States. Is the destruction of vast numbers of people's houses, just making them semi-permanently homeless.
Right.
Like, its manifestations in, like, climate-favored places, like most of North America, and the better economic circumstances of people in like the first world with our generally better in the United States. Not the United States is one of the worst first world countries for actual like social democratic welfare, but even we have a lot more protections than others. Anyway, I bring this up to say that the end of the world has been on everyone's mind, on the right and the left, and yet the world is endlessly ending without ever actually coming to a close.
Right.
So Claire lent me their Netflix password, and I pulled up Survivor, and I was offered 2 seasons, season 16 and season 32. And I chose season 16, Micronesia.
It's such a good season. Unfortunately, to tell you, it's a really good, fucking good season.
This is a hip and happening season called Fans versus Favorites, which involves winners, or I think high-ranking contestants from previous seasons, being brought back, 10 of them, to face down 10 people who are big Survivor fans. This is a series that has now run, I think, 42 seasons, and it's hosted by a very charming man, Jeff Probst, who I think is Probst?
Yeah.
Probst.
Jeff Probst.
Who is sort of a false prophet demon of our current culture.
Sorry, I need to just... Okay, I'm good. I'm collected. We're good.
As for the contestants, who are they? This is the first full episode of Survivor I've ever seen, and I sort of had the idea that, like most reality contestants, these were sort of like D-class people. Like people who inherited money, but then fucked it all away and like need to like humiliate themselves on television. But unlike Wikipedia, which gives the cities they're from, the show actually gives like their professions, which I think is a lot more interesting and resonates more with the audience. So there are things like an ice cream seller and an aspiring writer and a golf course vendor. So yes. I don't know how accurate this is, but it really feels like we're getting a cross section of American society. The sort of strange people who are our neighbors and sometimes us. One challenge with the format is that both groups are living by the rules of reality TV, and some of the contestants understand this and others do not. Some of them have no sense of like persona and just sort of say random things and don't establish anything about themselves. And these narratives are also created by the production. But the favorites, much more than the fans, have been made interesting by, I don't know who they are, but the way they're broadcast to me is so sharp. There's like, I'll call it a few favorites here. There's Yao Man, who I've discovered is one of the favorite Survivor contestants of all time. And I can see why, because he's like a very ambivalent, cool nerd. Yes. He's like, everything he says that's nice is tinged with like a sort of bitterness, and everything mean he says comes off funny. And so to see him on screen is sort of endlessly entertaining. And in this episode, he creates fire using his glasses in a Lord of the Flies sort of manner. There's James, who's just a hunk, and my personal favorite. And then another favorite is Parvati, who's just a real fucking piece of shit. She's just like obviously manipulative. And we love and hate her for that.
This is so enjoyable. I've watched to give viewers, no, not viewers, they can't see us, listeners, backstory here. I've watched probably 30 of the 42 seasons. There are probably 12 in there that I've missed in some way or another. But my parents used to watch it a lot, so I have an embarrassing amount of Survivor lore knowledge. So this is a delight to me hearing Luke discuss these people for the first time, being confronted with the beautiful evil persona of Parvati Shallow, which is just an incredible sort of villain name.
I've got to say, the way that every foreign name, every like non-Anglo name is pronounced on this show, I think like that is not how I would pronounce it. And you never hear people say their own names, so it's hard to verify what.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to trust him. Dear listener, forgive any mispronunciations, because these mispronunciations are sponsored by Jeff Probst. Jeff, I believe it's Jeff narrating this intro here. Jeff says to us that these contestants are going to be creating a new society while battling the elements and each other. He emphasizes that they must learn to adapt. And it was at this moment that I knew that my sort of apocalyptic vision for Survivor was accurate. This is a show about like cathartically living through the end of capitalism and the creation of a new sort of savage order. Like, you must survive in primitive places. You must regain the skills that your ancestors had, such as building fires. But also, the social order of the show is constantly under question. I'm not a big fan of hidden role games, like, for example, Mafia, Werewolf, because they fucking stress me out. But those are games where you're given a role and you stick to it and you manipulate people. But this is Survivor is a game with a lot of manipulation, but it's also a game where the rules are infinitely flexible, because the things that seem to matter often don't. Whether you win the contest or don't seems to relatively rarely matter to the contestants. Whether you have an immunity idol gives you like a temporary respite, but it's also not about being liked or disliked. It's not about there's sort of a pure ideal of control, but what control means to different people at different times is infinitely variable. And it's the feeling of they're constantly recreating a new society where everything is perpetually being destroyed, and they're all aware that the end game isn't to be on anyone's team, but to savage each other and come out as the only one who will gain from this bloodletting ceremony. It's exceptionally bleak.
Yeah.
So the basic unit of this show is contests and tribal councils where people will be voted out. And so after seeing sort of a sequence of extremely 2008 camera effects and like interviews where people are saying like, I'm here to win. I'm here. A surprising number of people seem to come on like, I'm here to make friends, which is refreshing. James, I love you.
James is so good.
We find the contestants being told you need to like swim or wade across this channel and find idols which have been placed somewhere on this other island, and the idols have been placed sort of hanging off the edges of their boats, and most of them just run directly past it. But Johnny Fairplay, this absolute scumbag character who has like
motherfucker.
He not only has the self-awareness of a pro wrestler, it seems that he temporarily was a pro wrestler. He has no sincerity in his entire body. Notices first and grabs the wrong idol, and then sort of collides with Yao Man, who grabs the correct idol, and then sort of innocently points out to a random woman named Kathy, the other one, and she picks it off, concluding this sort of vile challenge. They return and work together to build shelters for their teams, the fans teams and the fan team and the favorites team. The favorites team does better, but it's hard to tell what either team has accomplished because the cameraman does not care. Um, interesting interactions. They all talk about how much they admire and or disrespect each other. And then Kathy decides that someone is gay and needs everyone to know it. And she gives him a real 2008 style, like, are you gay? I've never had a gay friend before. Can we be friends now? Can you be my gay best friend? And he's just like, okay. That's a guy who had like 30 seconds of screen time, and it's all that screen time was just being grilled by this golf course vendor named Kathy. We get several interviews with other contestants who are like, it's incredible that Kathy got the immunity idol because I want her to leave. And you know what? Props to them.
Fuck.
Kathy is someone who doesn't understand she's on reality TV because every day of her life she's been living it like it's reality TV. And therefore, I mean, we all know middle-aged women like this. We all know all sorts of people like this. But a sort of nosy middle-aged woman is like a sort of universal experience that most of us don't want to have.
Yeah, Kathy as a person, I think, probably genuinely very nice. Kathy as sort of a TV personality gives the viewer just the feeling of like being asked questions while you're trying to listen to headphones.
Meeting Kathy at the office, it's like it doesn't necessarily improve your day, but it does spice your day.
Yeah.
Whereas as a television personality, the extra distance just unpleasant. The favorites very intelligently, but also sort of soullessly immediately create power couples in like the most cold-blooded way.
Yeah.
James seems to be immune to this. He's just like, Parvati is cool. Whereas Parvati is like, James is a strong man. I want his support. They create some alliances that, to me, did not make any sense, and will later just be immediately disrupted. But I understand that the alliances become extremely important, and seem to overwhelm more. Here's my take: the games appear to be important, but are not at all. Whereas the alliances are completely overwhelming, but also completely vicious. And the game structure seems to encourage them to break up and get confused if you start losing games or just by reshuffling the team.
Yes.
Anyway, let me run you through this very confusing and elaborate second game. It's a complex contest where you make wheels out of puzzle pieces, put them on a cart, drag the cart. You have to drag it to a certain location, dig up planks, put the planks on this bridge that's already mostly complete, pull the cart over the bridge to another location. And you have to take these puzzle wheels off, disassemble them, put together a new puzzle that's on some turntables, and then rotate it as a team. And the whole time this contest is going on, Jeff Probst is giving us the most inane commentary of all time. And he just has an amazing personality. But even with like his charming voice and the things he says, like his actual words are just like, the fans team is ahead. Oh, they're way ahead. Oh, the favorites are catching up. Oh, so-and-so has tripped over something. It's like...
Yes, it's absolutely just...
There's a sort of time dilation where it must have taken about 2 to 4 minutes of screen time watching the contest, but it could have been anywhere between like 30 seconds to 15 minutes of real time. Because the editing shows the same things again and again and then cuts over vast gaps of boring content. This game show... It's so confusing because these contestants are like playing sort of these childish games in a way that is on the first order kind of fun, but no one is having fun while doing it.
No.
And this is where I feel this humiliation or objectification, which I really did think had to do with like the desperation on the part of these people. But they're sort of desperate for their own gain rather than desperate for like any sort of salvation from a position. It doesn't feel like this is going to change their position at all, but sort of like they have a desire to win the game and to win money, sort of fueled by a Nietzschean will.
Don't say
and so,
Nietzschean will, Jesus fuck.
But it's like they like willingly harm themselves and they become abject in a way that seems to like reveal that it's like sliding off them in a certain way. Like they weren't abject before and they're actually like doing this totemically to like push away the like by performing humiliation, they ensure that they will like that their lives will be secure, that like by being chosen to be objectified on TV, they like secure that they will never actually be the objects of like the most exploitative kinds of capitalism. It's like there are like first and second order types of exploitation, and it's like if you willingly choose this kind of exploitation, you will never actually be subjected to the kinds of predation that we reserve for like Bangladeshi sweatshop workers.
Right.
So this is like the insane, like the mind melting component of this is that like there are people who will be medically evacuated as part of this season because of some of the things that will happen to them, but the performance of like it's so primitive, and we're like the feeling of nature red in tooth and claw, we must fight against everything, even each other, simulating like the collapse of society where you must turn against one another more and more in the way that like our politics turn against like who's the new group we can disenfranchise in order to use their blood to continue to like grease the wheels of capitalism and ensure like Walmart continues making a profit. Like this is being symbolically enacted in a way that actually like is part of the mechanism of exploitation rather than the performing the collapse of capitalism secures the continuation of capitalism.
Yeah.
And is like a good career move for most of these people. And there are interesting exceptions. I read that Jeff Probst outed a trans man in one of these.
A different guy on the show outed a trans man.
Oh my god.
And then Jeff Probst was like, we don't need to vote, we're kicking you off, basically.
Yeah, so he gets kicked off and then he gets fired from his job. It's insane.
Yeah.
Like, it's not guaranteed. But everyone involved, I think, believes that either on a spiritual or an economic level, that this show is elevating them.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people go to Survivor and they're like, I just wanted to understand myself. And then they leave Survivor and they're like, I know so much more about myself. And I'm like, it's not that I don't believe you, because I believe something that sort of weird and rigorous in like a very specific way would be sort of self-revealing. But I'm also just like, that's the environment you put yourself in to sort of self-actualize. Like, that's what you needed to reach the peak of fucking Maslow's hierarchy, is to go on Survivor and look sort of like a buffoon. Not that I'm complaining. Sort of, I love Survivor. But
it's that, like, our lives have become more anxious. Like, we as workers have become more precarious. Our political and economic power has slid since, like, the high days of, like, the American welfare state.
Right.
Which was itself mostly funded by, like, military spending and colonialism. But, like,
yeah, classic.
That doesn't change that, like, the American working class has had a real decline. And I think most of us feel it emotionally or, like, explicitly. That, like, we are more precarious than the previous generation. And so it's very real, the feeling that, like, our lives are slipping, and they're also incredibly banal. And so this show is an avenue for a different possibility. The possibility of destruction, but also the possibility of, like, triumph. And plus, it's just good TV. It gets the blood pumping. It's like, it's fun for most people to watch this, I think. Now, dear listener, I'm not recommending you watch this. I'm actually going to do the opposite. But if you have watched this and it has excited you, as I believe it has, Claire, I forgive you. I understand. I'm compassionate. The fans win. The nature of these contests seems extremely arbitrary and confusing. It seems like the favorites were having trouble getting their cartwheels to turn. The production staff has a lot to answer for, and the harm that they did to James, yeah, he didn't show it, but he must have felt it in his heart. I don't know. Production staff, you have too much power. Someone should be holding you accountable. Which means that the favorites are going to the tribal council, which is where they vote for someone to leave. They have a lot of talking. They get ready for someone to leave. Johnny Fairplay is sincerely, or I don't think there's a difference between sincerity and insincerity to him. He says a lot like, "I'm too good at lying. No one knows what I'm going to do." But, like, he's only that good because he doesn't know what he'll do.
Right.
Like, he's just he's like, I miss my wife and child, especially my unborn child. I feel like I should be there with them. And Jeff Probst is like, "Are you quitting?" And he's like, "No, but if I leave, then I will be happy." And he asked some other guy, like, "Is he quitting?" The guy's like, "Yeah, he is." He asked someone else. She's like, "No, he's not quitting." They vote. Just everyone votes for him. And then he tearfully says, like, some kind of statement like, "I've redeemed myself. I was going to win, and therefore I'm leaving on my own terms," which is just, no matter what happened, he would have made the same kind of cocky statement.
Right.
And that's the power of Mr. Fairplay.
Johnny Fairplay is an insane sort of figure in the Survivor kind of demonic pantheon. There are, well, I can't get too wild about this because there's a lot about Survivor that I find really fascinating, but Johnny Fairplay in particular is an extremely funny character because in his first season he got further in the game because his brother came for the family visit. If you get far enough into the game, like, someone from your family comes and visits. And he and his brother was like, "Hey, she died." And he, like, tearfully tells the other contestants that his grandma died. And that, like, and that helps him get further in the game. And then at the, like, end of the game, it's sort of revealed that he lied about that, and not only did he lie about that, but, like, his grandma is present in the audience.
He's such a piece of shit. That rules.
Yeah, it's like classic Survivor fucking villain shit. Johnny Fairplay is maybe the archetype for Survivor scum and villainy. Anyway, that's the Johnny Fairplay info that I have for you.
All right. The episode ends with Johnny Fairplay leaving. The favorites are reduced to 9. The fans remain at 10. There are many episodes to go, but I will not watch them. Let me tell you, Survivor is a model of the dark, primitive future that we fear. It's an omen of this time of annihilation and transgression. It's an image of the end of capitalism. And yet, it's not... It's all false, dear listener. It's all a spectacle. I think this isn't even in Micronesia. I think it's in Palau. Like, I was reading the Wikipedia page and it said, like, this is actually the same location as their Palau episode. I'm not a geographical expert, but I believe it's not Micronesia. What the fuck is going on? Okay, Jeff Probst is a false prophet. He's a showrunner of this sort of like theater of catharsis. It's the ruinous future as conceived by like our primetime TV overlords, not as it actually is. Survivor reveals that we crave our own destruction. Via Survivor, we're attempting to annihilate our own banal present. The show is poison. The show annihilates your soul and imagination to watch it. Dear listener, stay far away from this. In conclusion, I like James and I hope he won. The end.
I have the opposite recommendation, which is, God, you should watch Survivor. Not because it won't annihilate your soul, but because when people are put in a situation with these types of freaking insane, strange pressures, they do insane, strange things. But part of the insane, strange things that they do is, like, occasionally be very clever and occasionally be very, like, genuine, in ways that you, like, don't expect on a reality TV show. But more than that, I think your assessment of Survivor as, like, apocalypse capitalism version is extremely funny because, like, you watched the first episode, but if you had watched more, you perhaps would have come to an episode where they look through a sponsored Sears catalog and get to choose their Sears reward. There's one season where they watch Jack and Jill, the Adam Sandler movie. Like, one of the rewards is that they get to watch an early screening of the fucked up Adam Sandler movie that got, like, negative fucking reviews. And so it's like a vehicle for capitalism while also being this insane apocalyptic thing. Anyway, I think everything about Survivor is, like, so funny and so fascinating. The amount of just insane moments that happen because people are people, even if they're crazy TV people, is so funny to me and so enjoyable. Anyway, that's why I watch the soul-destroying apocalypse show, is because people are crazy and also that's fun.
Dear listener, Jack and Jill, the reward beloved by Survivor contestants, 2011 comedy, holds a 3% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's really bad. That's the one where Adam Sandler plays his own twin, but also like his twin is just like a fat woman or something, and sort of that's the joke.
Yeah.
Classic comedy.
Isn't it like your bad sister has come to stay with you indefinitely?
Yeah, probably.
The vision of Survivor really is hit home by, like, you may have an item from this year's catalog. It's like our former prosperity has been crushed by, like, late modernity.
Yeah.
And so it's not that we're giving up our creature, it's not that we're giving up this year's catalog, but that now it's the most coveted item that only 1 in a million people may hold, in a way that, like, in the 1940s, you could, like, optimistically get a copy of this year's catalog and be like, I would love to have, like, a dishwasher. And now it's inverted in, like, I will lose everything except perhaps if I betray my family, I will get to keep the one item that is most precious to me, which is like a DVD player from 2007 that I used to play my 3 copies of Jack and Jill, Adam Sandler's 2011 comedy masterpiece.
It's like adventuring in the wilderness and coming across the fucking foretold Taco Bell.
All right, let's wrap it up. We need some conclusions here. Dear listener, Your loser friends. Get fucking rid of them.
Get rid of them.
They're a drag on your spirit.
And the way you do that is straight up just delete them from your phone. Just write a list of them and then delete that list of them from your phone.
Your mother, if she is not making 140K or more, just
fucking cut her
change
off.
your phone number. Yeah.
Cut her off.
If your siblings try to reconnect you, let them know it's nothing personal. She's just not giving me good vibes.
She is not providing the kind of vibes that you need in your successful capitalist life.
And it's not all financial. But if you need a baseline for who's a loser, yeah, it's financial.
Yeah, it's not all financial. Asterisk. Yes, it is.
What else we got? Haruki Murakami. Is he good?
Haruki Murakami is good in a bad way and bad in a good way. So the answer to that is yes.
Yeah, I completely agree. Can't add more to that. Survivor. Jury's split. I think it's it will induce false consciousness on you, and then it will make you kill yourself. I think Claire agrees, but says it's good.
It's that it will induce false consciousness on you, but it won't make you kill yourself. It'll make living more enjoyable.
James, if you hear this, get in touch. Claire, give us an outro.
Everybody, that was Hot Goose Summer. I'm one of the two hot geese, Claire.
I guess that makes me the other hot goose, Luke.
Thanks for joining our summer. We'll see you next time.